Namaste. Hi everyone. Today we are back with the new chapter in economics, people as a resource. So we shall know about our people and how they are useful for the country and its economic development. So we are going to share the slides and I am going to show you some of the slides where you will understand the topic in a better manner. So now what do you mean by people as a resource? As you all know, India is the second largest country in the world for its population. First one is China and second is India. India is having more than 130 crores of population, and after a survey and after a study they are saying that by 2045 we may cross China if we do not control our population. So for that, even the government has taken many measures to control its population, and there are many various programs, various schemes which are sponsored by the government to control the population. But in this chapter, we are going to know how people can be made as a resource. So instead of taking lot of stress and trouble, but that we have very high, large number of population and lot of unemployment, all these things can be uh, reduced by using the people as a resource which can help our country to improve the economy also. We can improve our economy also. So to improve our economy and to improve our per capita income and national income, for all that we need a resource. So nowadays, as we all know, there are many and much scope for the sectors where we call it as human resource. So for every country, we have human resource development, and human resource is used for this purpose. So now, what is human resource? Is it like land or labor, or is it more than that? Then next is, what is human capital? Is it like rupee, paise, or dollar, or it is more than that? No, yes, both human resource and human capital are both more than that. So we shall know what is it. Here is human capital. Human capital means, mainly you see in the slide what we have the pictures. The first one is a doctor treating his patient. Second one is a teacher teaching a lesson. Third one is a mechanic repairing a machine. And the fourth one is a tailor stitching clothes. So what they are doing here? What they are doing? They are using their skills and they are giving their energy, time, and everything. So we can call it as a service. A service. They are giving their services for which, for example, a doctor is paid a fee We pay the fees when we visit a doctor. We pay the fees to him, and a teacher gets a salary. A mechanic gets his wages. A tailor gets his income by what we pay. So in that way, even tailor also gets wages only. So in the form of like whatever he stitches, for that he asks money which we pay. So now in this one more clip, what is happening? A man is selling something, fishes in his basket. One more man is standing with his briefcase. So they are trying to sell their goods. So this is also a kind of service. And a boy is going to school, another boy is picking up some of the things and putting in the basket. So the one boy is going to school. So here, what does it mean? One boy is getting education, another boy is not getting. So we shall study all these things in detail. Now, in your textbook, he has given a case study of two people, that is Vilas and Sakal. There are two men who have their different ways of lifestyle, and we are knowing about the reason of this. So, like story of Sakal, there were two friends, Vilas and Sakal, living in the same village, Semapur. Sakal was a 12-year-old boy. His mother, Sheila, looked after domestic chores. What do you mean by domestic chores? She is a housewife, or she is working for the domestic work for various houses, going and cleaning the utensils, washing the clothes, cleaning the house, for which she will get a mere salary. And his father, Bhuta Chaudhary, worked in an agricultural field. Means his father, Bhuta Chaudhary, is an agricultural laborer. So this is about the Sakal. Sakal helped his mother in domestic chores. So here Sakal used to help his mother for doing all the domestic works. He also looked after his younger brother Jitu and sister Situ. So he had two younger, one is brother Jitu and a sister Situ. And his uncle Shyam had passed the matriculation exam. What do you mean by matriculation? In olden days, they used to call as matriculation. Now we call it as 10th class. So examination, but was sitting idle in the house as he had no job. So Bhuta and Sheila were eager to teach Sakal. They forced him to join the village school, which he soon joined. He started studying and completed his higher secondary exam. What does this mean, higher secondary? That is plus 2 level. Plus 2 level he has studied. After 10th, 11th and 12th also he completed. We call up to 10th only secondary. Higher secondary means it is up to plus 2 level. His father persuaded him to continue his studies. He wanted his son to study more. He raised a loan for Sakal. He borrowed a loan for Sakal to study a vocational studies from the beginning, courses in computers. His father wanted him to do some vocational courses in computers. Sakal was meritorious and interested in studies from the beginning. So Sakal was a very bright student and he studied very well. That's why he was always getting merit and he was more interested in studies. With great vigor and enthusiasm, he completed his course. After some time, he got a job in a private firm. In a private firm means in a private company, he got a job. He even designed a new kind of software. He also designed a new kind of software. This software helped him increase the sale of the firm. Increase the sale of the firm means he increased the business for his company where he is working. His boss acknowledged his services and rewarded him with a promotion. So his boss was very happy with his work. So he identified him, acknowledged his services, and rewarded him with a promotion. He was promoted into a higher level. Now, next is story of Vilas. Vilas was an 11-year-old boy residing in the same village as Sakal. Vilas' father Mahesh was a fisherman. His father passed away when he was only 2 years old. His mother Geeta sold fish to earn money to feed the family. She bought fish from the landowner's pond and sold it in the nearby mandi. What do you mean by mandi? A small market. She could earn only 20 to 30 rupees a day by selling fish. Vilas became a patient of arthritis. So he was not feeling well. He became a patient of arthritis. Arthritis means some joint pains and other things. His mother could not afford to take him to a doctor. He could not go to school either. He was not interested in studies. He helped his mother in cooking and also looked after his younger brother Mohan. After some time, his mother fell sick and there was no one to look after her. There was no one in the family to support them. Vilas too was forced to sell fish in the same village. He, like his mother, earned only a mere income. Now, countries like Japan have invested in human resource. They did not have any natural resource. These countries are developed, rich countries. They import the natural resource needed in their country. How did they become rich and developed? They have invested on people, especially in the field of education and health. These people have made efficient use of other resources like land and capital. Efficiency and the technology evolved by people have made these countries rich and developed. So, with this, the comparison with Japan in human resource. Now we studied about two case studies, that is Sakal and Vilas. Because Sakal got educated, he got a good job and his income increased and his standard of living was better. Whereas Vilas, he was a son of a poor laborer who already died, a fisherman, and then mother too has to do the same and he could not go to school. That means he did not get educated. So he could do only the same work what his parents used to do, that is selling fish. So his income was reduced. So here when the developed countries are being compared with our country, what was the idea of Japan? They have invested much in human resource. That is, they gave very good invested on people, especially in field of education and health. These people have made efficient use of other resources. Later on, they used the land and capital. So this, by which they could develop, the people could develop, people in Japan could develop lot of skills due to education and good health facilities. So that's why they could come to a very good situations. So that's why they have become developed countries. So now economic activities by men and women. People have been engaged in various activities. The various activities, they are classified into three main sectors. So what is that classification? See here. One is in this slide you see classify the activities. One is a tractor being used in a agricultural field. Then you see one industry, a factory. Then the third one you see one ship where they are loading some goods. So what does this mean? They are classified into three sectors. So what is these three? What are these three sectors? They are the primary, secondary and tertiary. We call it as primary sector, secondary sector, tertiary sector. So what is the primary activities? In what we get into the primary sector? We get agriculture, forestry, animal husbandry, fishing, poultry, farming, and the last one is quarrying. Quarrying means it is nothing but mining, mines to take out different types of minerals from the earth. So what is common in all these points? In these 6 points, what is common? The common thing is mostly they are the natural resources. They are coming from the natural resources. So primary sector is related to the natural resources. Most of the things will be from the natural resources. Secondary, in here only manufacturing is included in the secondary sector. Only manufacturing, that is factories, industries and manufacturing of goods. What do these factories and industries do? They manufacture goods. Tertiary. Tertiary is nothing but the service sector, what we call. You will study again in detail in 10th class. That is tertiary is nothing but giving services, using their skills. People use their skills and share their knowledge and their skills and give services to the people. So what is that tertiary activity? Trade, transport, communication, banking, education, health, services, insurance. So all these come under tertiary activities. So what is the quality of population depends upon the literacy rate. What do you mean by literacy rate? How many people are educated in the country? Health of a person indicated by life expectancy. How many years people can survive, and then skill formation acquired by the people of the country. The quality of the population ultimately decides the growth rate of the country. Illiteracy and unhealthy population are liability for the economy. Literate and healthy population are an asset. See here, liability means again if anyone is unhealthy or if they are illiterates, they are depending on some other people. Generally, they depend on some others. So that's why they become a liability for the economy. Whereas if they are good, educated and healthy, they become an asset for the country. Education. There is a provision made for providing universal access, retention, equality in elementary education with a special emphasis on girls. Nowadays, as our tradition was there in the previous olden days, girls were not being much educated. But now the government has made a lot of provisions to give universal access, both equality for quality education with special emphasis. Importance is given for the girl child. There is an establishment of pace setting of schools like Navodaya Vidyalaya in each district. Government has started many schools. Every district will have one Jawahar Navodaya Vidyalaya in all the country, in all districts. Vocational streams have been developed to equip large number of high school students with occupation related to knowledge and skills, that is skill development, is being given additionally by introducing vocational courses. The plan outlay on education has increased from rupees 151 crore in the first plan to 43,825 crores in the 10th plan. What is this? First plan and 10th plan, they are the 5-year plans. The first 5-year plan was started after we got independence. Now almost we are into 12th plan. The expenditure on education as a percentage of GDP rose from 0.64% in 1951-52 to 3.98% in 2002 and 3. The literacy rates have increased from 18% in 1951 to 65% in 2001. See how much rapid growth came in the literacy rate. When we got independence, only 15 to 18% of the people of our country were educated. They were literates. What do you mean by literate? A person who can read and write. They are called the literates. So minimum basic, at least primary level of education is needed. Then they are called as literates. So now in 2001, it rose up to 65%. Now present 2020, this percentage also rose above 70% also. Literacy is not only a right, it is also needed if the citizens are to perform their duties and enjoy their rights properly. However, a vast difference is noticed across different sections of people. Literacy among males is nearly 50% higher than females. It was generally males literacy rate was high. Now also it is high, but now the difference or the margin is very low because even females are also literates now. Many of the females or the girls you see, they are studying almost all the courses and they are almost in all the fields. Literacy rates vary from 96% in some district of Kerala to a below 30% in some parts of Madhya Pradesh. See, you all know that Kerala is the highest literate percentage in our country. It is having more than 90%. Some of the districts they have 96%, Kerala, and you get the good medical facilities also in Kerala state. Whereas below 30% in some parts of Madhya Pradesh, and now Jharkhand, Bihar, Chhattisgarh, they have very low literacy rate. The primary school system, that's why you find lot of labor class people from Uttar Pradesh, Jharkhand, Bihar, Chhattisgarh, and they migrate to different states. And now in present situations, you are seeing all this because you find most of the labor from these areas because they do not have literacy. The primary school system has expanded over 5 lakh villages in India. Expansion of schools have been diluted by Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan. It is a program started by the Government of India in a significant step towards providing elementary education to all children in the age group of 6 to 14 years by 2010. That's why even Child Labor Act was introduced, where it is punishable offense if you have a labor of children below 14 years of age. It is a time-bound initiative of central government in partnership with the states, the local government and community for achieving the goal of universalization of elementary education. So, with the help of the state governments, the central government has started such a program of Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, where they are giving free education for the poor people, and almost all, even in private schools also, they are giving free education. Midday meal scheme has been implemented to encourage attendance and retention of the child labor. Right? Midday meals. Government is providing even lunch, midday meals for the children. And nowadays you see the governments are providing textbooks, uniforms, shoes, all the other they are supplying it. They are giving it for free to the poor children so that they should attend the schools. Children and improve their nutritional status. Even malnutrition. What do you mean by malnutrition? That they do not have much money even to eat food properly. A proper single meal also they are not able to afford. So for such children, they become unhealthy. They become malnutrition. So to improve their nutrition, government even has started giving midday meals to the children in the schools. Now health. Coming, the health of a person helps him to realize his potential and the ability to fight illness. That is the resistance or immunity. An unhealthy person becomes a liability for an organization indeed. For example, anybody is unhealthy in a family, so all the family members have to work hard to get the treatments done to eradicate the illness, and they need to spend the money for the medical purposes and other things. And as you know that an unhealthy person cannot work or he cannot earn, so health is an indispensable basis for realizing one's well-being. They have to know that they should be healthy to do some work. There are many places in India which do not have even these basic facilities. Many states in our country where we do not have proper even health facilities. Just 4 states like Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu and Maharashtra have 81 out of 181 medical colleges. On the other hand, states like Bihar and Uttar Pradesh have poor health indices and only few medical colleges they have. Unemployment. This is the major drawback for us. Unemployment is said to exist when people who are willing to work at going wages cannot find jobs. The people who are ready to work but they are not getting job. They are not getting job for any kind of wages. So such people are called unemployed. In case of India, we have unemployment in rural and urban areas. Both the areas we have. However, the nature of unemployment differs in rural and urban areas. In case of rural areas, there is seasonal and disguised unemployment. Urban areas have mostly educated unemployment. See here, what do you mean by seasonal unemployment? Seasonal unemployment means people get jobs or they can earn wages only during a particular season, and during the other time they become unemployed. That's why we call it as seasonal unemployment. So the best example is the agricultural laborers. So every agricultural laborer can't get employment for the whole year, that is all the 365 days. They cannot get. They get employment only during like sowing of seeds or tilling of land, then again during harvesting. At that time, the landlords or the landowners, they employ some labor to get it cleared, to do the works. So they pay some wages only during that time. So in the other time they become unemployed. So this is called seasonal unemployment. One more. Even the people who are working in the sugar factories, sugar factory also, it doesn't run for the complete year, but they work there, they go there only during the harvesting of sugarcane, and when sugarcane is ready, the sugar is manufactured in the factory, and later when there is no sugarcane, the factory gets closed for almost 3 to 4 months in a year. So at that time, the labor who are working in the, or the employees who are working in the sugar factories, they become unemployed. So even that is called a seasonal unemployment. Now one more most important thing in the rural unemployment is disguised unemployment. What do you mean by disguise? Disguise is nothing but it cannot be seen. It is an unseen thing. It is an unseen unemployment. That's why we call it as disguised unemployment. A simple example I will give you. Like suppose a family which is having 8 members in the family. 8 earning members. That is, they can go and work and earn money. 8 members are their family in their family, and they are having a small piece of land of say 2 acres. So actually in these 2 acres only 3 to 4 people can work and do the required production, and they can extract the required production. But all 8 members of that family are working in that 2 acres of land. Even though there is a requirement of only 4 members or 3 members, the remaining 4 members are also working. If all the 8 members are working, there won't be any increase in the production, or there won't be any early harvesting. They won't get. The time bound is same, the timeline is same, the production is same, output is same. So the extra 4 members actually can go out and work or get some other employment, or they can go out and work somewhere else and earn more money. But they do not do that. You ask all the 8 members, what is your occupation? They say, I am a farmer. I have some land and we are doing agriculture, they say. But the requirement is only 4 people. But all are working, 8 members are working. So it cannot be seen directly. So that's why we say this is a disguised unemployment. That is, only 4 members were required where 8 members are working, and they think that they have lot of work, but fact is that they are unemployed. So this type of unemployment is called disguised unemployment. Now coming to urban areas, we have mostly educated unemployment. Many are educated, but they do not have say communication skills or any other skills. So what happens? They do not get the job. So they even though they are educated, they become unemployed. So this is nothing but this leads to wastage of manpower resource. People are many, but they do not have jobs. So they become liability. So now we have completed this chapter. I would like to tell you that please go through the textbook and read the textbook thoroughly, and mark your key points, and then prepare your notes. And one thing I would like to suggest you, always please read the textbook and then go for other material or other things. Actually, you have your best textbooks which are on the NCERT, and if you go through the textbook, you will understand the chapter very well. So thank you.